Liked by the sound of violence.
I don't think I've ever done a Legion of Doom where Dana White was a member, and he's got to be a member now because he's going to put up fights on a secret island he's going to fly fighters out to. This is a goddamn plot of 20 different movies and comic books and shit. We know how it works out. He's going to release them to kill. He's going to hunt them, first of all, then make them fight each other, and then bring back dinosaurs or some shit to have them hunt them. So that's the only outcome you could possibly see from it. You know, he's going to have a secret Han Island, Enter the Dragon combat martial art tournament first, as soon as the toughest. Then he's going to give them weapons so they can hunt each other. Then he's going to bring in his wealthy friends to hunt them, and then come the dinosaurs. And so that's
what about the Brazilian stripper hooker?
Oh, well, they're there just to hang back with him to watch while he's watching. So you have to have the eye candy hit with them while he's watching the monitors.
What up, everybody, and welcome back to yet another Sound of Violence podcast. We are an MMA podcast that lets you know the MMA podcast you should catch, skip, and can't miss each week, as well as we try and check out a new show. I am Pulver, and I'm back yet again with my co-host, Chris Madaffer. What up, dude?
Hanging in there, man.
It's been a long motherfucking week, huh?
Yeah. Got called off of work because of massive flooding here in San Diego, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's been raining pretty much nonstop all week, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, it's fucking interesting. So, I mean, we need it.
Always.
I mean, California, yeah. So it's not really a bad thing. But, yeah, it's going. So
I hear that.
No sports now, since, of course, it was inevitable that everything else would be canceled.
I mean, yeah, well, we're gonna get into that a lot today. Yeah. But boy, I think we both kind of knew that was gonna be the case. Like, I don't think either one of us really expected that card to happen. But I didn't expect it to be as crazy a fucking week as it has been either. Jesus, it's been a long one for sure. It feels like forever ago since we did one of these. I guess we'll start off the way we normally do with our Doug Stanhope present. Motherfucker. Every motherfucking time I make that mistake. And I got rid of all my empty bottles of Popov, or else I would be holding one up saying, our Popov Vodka presents, Doug Stanhope presents, our sponsor. What you drinking on this week?
I mean, I only like one beer from this brewery, I kind of realized, or maybe two. New Belgium.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got a variety pack, and man, I thought Fat Tire would be in there. They're amber.
Fat Tire.
It was like good. It was a Belgian white version of it, and it's just whatever. And then I'm having some pale lager called Shift. It's not bad. It's just, I don't know. Yeah, I'm just spoiled.
Too bready.
Yeah, very very malty and tangy.
Yeah, that's what I remember of that beer. Although I haven't had Fat Tire in a long time. I wonder if I like that beer still. Because it's real bready.
See, I didn't even get to have regular Fat Tire. This is just their pale lager Shift called Shift.
And I remember Shift being pretty malt fucking heavy as well.
Yeah. I don't know. It's all right. I wouldn't get the variety pack again. I think I'll just get the Fat Tire.
Yeah, I mean, their smaller batch stuff is always way better than a lot of their like main run stuff that I've found. I miss 1554, which used to be around a lot more, which was like I believe it was a Dunkel maybe or something like that, if I remember right. But yeah, anyway, I am drinking on. This actually is about as close as we may ever have to a sponsor on this show. Here, let me take a sip of it real quick. But yeah, this actually might be the closest we've ever had to a sponsor because I got this beer for free. Not for the show at all. I ordered a case of AleSmith 394 last week, and
That's
also
right.
a 6-pack of Forge Berry, their raspberry sour that they made.
Ooh, that sounds good.
Yeah, and I got it last week. It's been great. I'm still making my way through the case because it's a lot of real hoppy pale ales. So I'm not just pounding them like they're fucking. I would say cask, but I still have too many casks back there. I might have some later. And then halfway through this week, as I'm still making my way through that case, the exact same order shows up again from AleSmith, and I did not order it again. And so I was real confused. I figured since all of these breweries are brand new to the shipping and everything, I was like, I think these motherfuckers fucked up their shipping and sent this to me twice. And I'm probably not going to let them know unless they reach out. Or unless they send a third case, in which case I definitely have to send the third case back and contact them.
Yeah.
And then I got an email, I think yesterday, where they're like, hey, we found out we accidentally shipped extra order to a bunch of people, so enjoy the beer. We don't send us anything. Just enjoy it.
There you go.
So I was like, you know what? That's very cool at AleSmith, who's, I mean, one of the staple breweries in this city. It's probably them, Stone, and Carl Strauss as, like, the longest running, most reliable, locally owned breweries in the city.
I'd say that's a good answer, yeah.
Yeah, Ballast Point used to be one of those until they just completely tanked their reputation here.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, AleSmith is always, I mean, their Speedway Stout is incredible. I believe, actually, there was if I remember right, there was a poll this week that had, like, Speedway Stout from AleSmith, it had The Butcher from Society, and it had Zoombar from New English as like the top
That's
three
right.
or four beers in San Diego, or stouts, I should say, in San Diego.
Yeah, all those are good, solid choices.
There was
I
a
know
fourth one too, right? Was it Epic?
I think Epic. Yeah, it's called. I haven't tried that one. I've tried the other
haven't
ones. Yeah, I want to.
Who ended up
I mean,
winning
if I
that?
can,
'Cause
I want.
It came down to Zoombar and Epic,
think-
right?
Yeah, Epic won.
Did
I
they?
think by about 10 votes. Yeah.
Wow, that's close.
Yeah, I gotta try that one. I don't like to have to keep driving around and shit, but
Yeah,
I gotta support breweries, you know.
true. Hey,
I'm in that industry, so
yeah, I've been trying to have some shipped also. Also, I might have to put in an order from Modern Times. Modern Times came out with a statement, and they're like, "Listen, we were kind of gonna do this as a collab with somebody, but since we can't really be flying places and doing collabs right now, we're coming out with a beer called Medicare for All, and enjoy." I was like,
That's pretty rad.
Shit, that is a strong stance from a brewery, but pretty cool of them. So
I'm gonna look that up.
yeah, if you guys
See
if you guys live in California, Modern Times is shipping cases of what is it, 6 4-packs of 16-ounce cans for I think like $70-$80, which isn't that bad a deal at all. Especially considering all the stuff from Modern Times is pretty solid.
Oh my!
Some of those are varieties.
Is this okay? I looked on Untapped. It says Extraordinary Times Medicare for All. It says it's a pastry stout. It's 14% ABV. What?
Yeah, it's a very small bourbon barrel age release, if I remember right.
Okay, that must be fucking good.
Yeah, it sounds really good. So, shouts to them. But yeah, I figured I have to do AleSmith on the show this week since they, whether inadvertently or not, they sent me a full fucking case of beer for free. So, feel like we should talk about it for at least a little bit. So yeah, if you guys don't know anything about AleSmith 394 Pale Ale, their San Diego Pale Ale, it's the Tony Gwynn beer, man. Everybody loves Tony Gwynn. He's like the opposite of Michael Jordan or Christian Laettner. Like, everybody loves Tony Gwynn.
No, there are only a couple athletes I feel like in sports history that kind of encapsulate whatever you want to call it, or they kind of represent a city. And whenever you think of San Diego, it's him.
Yeah.
100%. He's Mr. Padre. I believe was born in Texas, but he grew up in Poway.
Well, and if you've watched any kind of local ad in the last 30 years, like 50% of the time, if there's a local celebrity, it's Tony Gwynn.
Yeah, nobody beats El Cajon Ford.
Exactly, exactly, all that shit.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's a fucking legend. Yeah, he went to San Diego State. He played basketball and baseball. He got drafted by the San Diego Clippers and the San Diego Padres. You know, he's just all about. Yeah, if you think about other cities, it's kind of hard to really. You know what I mean? Though, can you really think of like an athlete? Like, and say they're kind of from that city and they embody it. See, maybe Michael Jordan was Chicago, I guess. I know he's not from there. He's from North Carolina, but
Yeah.
you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, and the difference is a lot of those players left the city.
Yeah.
Like, you would say LeBron in Cleveland, but, like...
That's not a bad answer, though.
Yeah.
That's a decent answer. He brought
Kobe
them a title.
in LA, I guess, is, like, kind of like that. But not nobody as rooted in the city as Tony Gwynn, probably. And who's just, like, done just every fucking charity ever that's ever happened in the city. Like, and everybody just all, like, across the board has nice things to say about him from what I've heard, so... Cool dude and great beer. It's apart from all that, even if it wasn't any of that, it's probably the best pale ale in the city, right? Or like, maybe not the best, but like it's easily top 5, top 10.
It's always going to be up there, no matter what. I think it's just still going to be good.
I've talked about
rest in peace again, of course. To him, always it's fucking sad, but
yeah. And it's one of those things where I feel like I talked about this during the week on those daily shows I was doing, but. 394 from AleSmith feels like now, like what Sculpin was in bars probably 5-10 years ago is what 394 is now, where it's just like every single bar you go to has 394, and it's always like my go-to hoppy beer.
I don't know if you could see it. I inherited from my late uncle an authentic Tony Gwynn 90s jersey. I don't know if you can kind of see that.
Barely, yeah. I can see the very top of it. That's funny. Yeah. That's tight, man. But yeah. Oh, and also I heard they're making a hazy 394 now too, which is like a.
I've actually had that one.
Have you?
It's really good.
Yeah, I heard they're just now starting to can it.
I got it last year at a keg and bottle in cans.
Really? I didn't know. That.
Yeah. Unless
like
it's seasonal. Yeah,
like
it might be a seasonal. Yeah, it's similar to their the Hall of Fame edition where they imperialize it, but more on the juicy side and less on like the, I guess, back bitterness. I don't know. It's an
like
interesting
that sweet Imperial IPA kind of thing. Cool, man. Well, I guess we will stop making this a beer podcast, despite my best efforts. Although, damn it, I'm still trying, y'all. So why don't we go ahead and get into format? Chris, I heard you didn't listen to a lot of MMA podcasts this week.
I kind of had a rough week.
Yeah,
a lot of boozing, unfortunately.
Or fortunately.
Well, I mean, I basically skipped a whole half a day. So
that sounds like either a good time or a bad time, and either way, it was a time for sure, right?
A lot of it too was I was like, well, everything's canceled. What the fuck am I going to listen to? I mean, I know people are still going to be doing podcasts. I'm not ignorant to that, but I guess honestly, I just kind of wasn't feeling it this week, and I only listened to one podcast, and it was good, but it was just kind of.
Was it the one I recommended?
Yeah, it's essentially only what we could talk about as well, and
right.
Really kind of all we can do now is just, in theory, think about, well, what fucking happens next. You obviously have to wait for the whole pandemic. You can't necessarily say to secede or kind of slow down because it's not going to, not anytime soon. So not having sports sucks.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just watching today, just for a little bit. Major League Baseball teamed up with Sony San Diego. They're doing an official players league for MLB The Show 20.
I heard that.
And they have a representative from each team. Fernando Tatis Jr. from our San Diego Padres is playing tomorrow.
Nice.
And they play 4 games every scheduled day. And it's fun. It's just 3-inning games. You can go to each Twitch channel.
We're playing 3-inning games. What kind of casual bullshit is this?
So the only thing that's wrong is that I don't mind the 3-inning, but the difficulty's on veteran hitting instead of all-star, which is bullshit. Because you can't really line up with the PCI, when they throw the ball. So, like, dude, if you just throw a fastball high and inside and swing early, you're killing.
Yeah, but you realize that everybody would just absolutely get murdered by every other team. Like,
that's the reason why they did it on veteran. Is because there's the guy who won the tournament that they did, Amir Garrett. He's a reliever for the Reds. He's like 3-1 right now. He won 3 of his first 4 games. But this one guy who's new, Joey Gallo, he's a power hitting first baseman for or right fielder for the Rangers. He fucking smoked like the runner up from the tournament, like 11-2. He scored like 8 runs in like the first inning. It's kind of fun watching him because you get to see players talk shit to each other. and that's
pretty
all on
funny.
Twitch or on YouTube. So it's interesting. Apparently, I think it's going to be broadcasting some of them on ESPN or some shit. Like, what the fuck?
Why not? ESPN needs content, clearly.
Yeah.
Since
So
the
I'm gonna
mouse
check
put
out.
the kibosh on 249.
Yeah, I'm gonna check out Tatis tomorrow and see how he does with the Padres because you got to use your teams. So, Padres aren't terrible in the show, so that's nice for once.
Yeah,
So.
for once indeed. Oh, I'm sure he'll do fine for the first 3 quarters and then choke super fucking hard at the end because he's a San Diego sports team member.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of how that goes. Anyway, cool. So what I'm gonna do is, since you only have one thing to mention and it's gonna come up in a bit for me, I'm gonna run through some of the stuff I've listened to because I've had a busy motherfucking week in MMA podcasts. I knew that news was going to get really crazy this week, and so I doubled down on the amount of stuff I listened to. And part of that is because I've been doing those daily shows where I listen to, I basically just jump on and recap kind of what I listened to, and it ended up being I talk about a little bit of the news that happened each day, which I call them daily shows. They're shows where I'm either not completely exhausted or having to edit one of these podcasts, so they're semi-daily, but I will just go ahead and jump right into my catch, though. One of my catches for this week is weighing in episode 50. And actually, before I even get to that, I should mention there is a thing that is happening in MMA podcasts right now that is frustrating as fuck. And luckily, we're past that point. So now we can get back to it. It is going to be do or die for a lot of MMA podcasts, and you're going to find out real quick whether they have anything worthwhile to say if there isn't just words that they can say that other people reported. Like, without news stories and without fights happening, there's a lot of shows that just don't have content to talk about because they don't have opinions or things that are worthwhile listening to if they're not regurgitating things Dana White or the UFC put out. And that was kind of a big theme this week. And there became a very, very clear line between people who are either independently owned as media or people who are kind of just don't give a fuck about their employer's reactions to the things they're stating. Mainly, that's just Luke Thomas. Everybody else that put out quality content this week is all independent media as far as I'm concerned. Well, mostly. MMA Fighting has been doing some really interesting stuff with Jose Youngs and Pizza Carroll, EKC, Casey Leiden, Esther Lynn. Like, they've been actually doing some very, very quality reporting. But some motherfuckers this week, like, Chris, while you were following all the coverage this week, how many people did you see just, like, especially in media, just pretending like it's normal that the fights are happening and just trying to talk about like Habib versus Gaethje or Tony versus Gaethje, like it's a thing isn't all reasonable.
Well, I know you mentioned MMA Junkie was doing.
Yeah. There we go. There's a name that is gonna come up a couple times.
Let me see. There was another one I just saw. Someone posted something and I was like, really? Where the fuck is it at?
Yeah, MMA Junkie was pretty bad. And I'm not saying everybody. Like, obviously, there's guys like Nolan King and more there is a clear divide between people who there's just a clear divide in media and media members in the last week as to who is worth listening to and who is absolutely not worth listening to. Oh shit! Careful, guys. Chris gonna give you the Rona.
It's the Rona.
That's right. I should have started this episode with the face mask.
Yeah, I have an N95 right here. Maybe I should put it on, but then you won't be able to hear me that well.
But I heard there's a gas. Okay, I'm gonna take that off because it's definitely fucking up the audio. But I heard there's a gas station in like fucking some like bumfuck East County that is selling 10 N95 masks for $100 if you want them. Spring Valley.
Okay, that's it.
Is that out in East County? It's the one with Spring.
It's like Southeast County. So
yeah. There's or something like that. It might actually be like it's somewhere around there. Anyway,
Where was I getting at?
I took us all the way off the
Coverage.
rails.
You mentioned MMA
The
Junkie. Go
divide
ahead
in
and let's.
MMA media and people just like pretending like shit's. It's that a lot of MMA media this week was that meme of the dog sitting in a house that's on fire. That's just saying everything's fine.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah. Was there? You said MMA Junkie in general and somebody else, right?
I can't recall. There's another one I saw. I was like, really? Who the fuck was it?
Brennan Schaub might have been it.
Well, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's a good point. I can't remember off the top of my head. It'll probably come up during this, but yeah, there's just become a very clear divide between people who are willing to give their opinion, even at even at the behest of the promotion. But what was weird this week is a lot of people I feel like held back their opinions because of fans' reactions. Because like fans were the worst on Twitter this week about like, oh, the media just wants fighters to not get money and they just want to see the world burn. Which there's been so many weird reactions to how media works.
All these media members are fucking pussies, nerds. They don't train. Do you train UFC?
Well, and you saw we got blocked by the head manager at Iridium Sports this week, right? Who we've never talked about, Jason House. Have we ever said the name Jason House on this show? Do you even know who Jason House is?
I have no idea who the fuck that is.
So actually, that's not true. We have talked about Jason House one time on this show, and that's because he is the manager of a fighter who is in Bellator, may have competed recently in a grappling tournament, and he a while back, I believe episode 125 of our show, something like that, we talked about it. That fighter mentioned that Jason House, who, by the way, blocked us. We didn't mention him at all on Twitter. He blocked us because he has been railing against all of MMA media about how if MMA media doesn't have positive things to say about the UFC, they shouldn't be talking about the UFC or MMA.
That's not how journalism or even light journalism works, but all right, bud.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, well, he's a manager for one of the major outlets and they're one of the major companies in the sport. And he's arguing not for his clients, but for the people he's supposed to be fighting against for his clients. So that's fun. But he's probably really just upset that the card got canceled because he takes 20% instead of 10%, which is not the standard rate by almost any manager. That's also why the fighter who was previously with him was like, go fuck yourself. You don't do anything for me, and you just take fucking double the normal rate. Well,
that's good that he wised up.
Yeah,
right?
So big fuck you to Jason House who blocked us this week. Even though we never talked about him before, but since he wants to get talked about, he doesn't understand his role in the sport clearly, or the media's role in the sport, and also decided to let the world burn again right off the top of the show. My first catch for this week is an obvious one, probably. If you guys were to say, hey, Big John put out an episode of his podcast with Josh Thompson where they talked about all of the crazy events surrounding Tachi Palace and UFC trying to do a fight there, basically trying to get around an athletic commission. Big John is the first person whose opinion I want to hear. And, it's really interesting. He talks about working the WEC at Tachi way back in the day. He brings up that Tachi actually is one of the few, or one of the Native American reservations that does not have their own tribal commission. Like some do.
Okay.
Like Mohegan Sun is the most well-known one because they a lot of times will sanction events outside of their area because they're so well-known. So like a lot of times Mohegan Sun Commission will get brought in for other things, that kind of stuff. Whereas Tachi doesn't have their own commission, from what I understand. I could be misunderstanding because there's a lot of like government bureaucratic shit that I don't care enough to understand mostly. But he talks about that, and he talks about how a lot of times the California State Athletic Commission normally will oversee their events. However, California State Athletic Commission is completely shut down right now. And they're not sanctioning anything. So the UFC going out and saying like, the events will be regulated because The UFC is saying that because they're going to regulate the events like they normally do outside of the U.S. However, the UFC can't legally. They're only allowed to regulate outside the U.S. when there is no sanctioning body. Inside the U.S., there is a sanctioning body, and just because they're not currently accepting fights because there's a motherfucking global pandemic happening does not mean that you just get to become the sanctioning body. So yeah, it's cool hearing him talk about the details on that and how insane it is that they even tried to pull it off. He also says that the ABC and the ABC was the ones that came out and they're like, the Athletic Boxing Commission were like, oh, well, technically UFC 249 is regulated, which is what they were told, which is what we were told by the UFC, which it's not. And then he said no known refs that he knows were actually going to work 249. Like, it was going to be bottom of the barrel refs and judges because nobody works with California State Athletic Commission, wants to get anywhere near that show. Because you're essentially going out of your way to fight against any kind of sanctioning and everything. So it's just pretty wild, the entire story. And he also talks about how the ARP, the Association of Ringside Physicians, came out and made their statement where they're like, listen, even if we were sanctioning stuff, it's unsafe and just it's a bad fucking look to put on events right now when all it's going to do at the very minimum is put unneeded stress on the medical system in that community, which is like the easiest argument against any of this shit. And it's like we talked about it last week. There's no reason why this fight card should have been happening.
Not at all. None whatsoever. And even if you try to come up with that argument that the fighters need to get paid, well, okay, Dana is the president. Technically, he's not a commissioner of some sort because everyone's independently on a contract. But he should still. I mean, I don't know if it's in everyone's contract. I'm not good with this. I know Show Money probably has discussed this as far as how the contracts are constructed in which compensation comes about. I don't know how that works in the events of a fucking pandemic.
Yeah, most people on a show win. And it's all written towards the UFC's favor, though, is the problem. So if they don't weigh in, there is no show money generally.
Yeah.
And even then, even if they do weigh in, show money generally, technically, according to the contract, if they don't want to pay you, if you didn't technically get in the cage and fight, they technically don't have to. So it's frustrating. And they've said, to their credit, they've said they're going to pay. No, that's not true. They didn't say they're going to pay fighters that were supposed to fight at the event. They said they are going to compensate fighters for being on UFC 249. And also, it's because they're going to reschedule the card. And there's not a clear line as to whether they're going to get compensated and part of the rescheduled card or what. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But yeah, just a bad fucking look overall. John also mentioned something interesting, which he said any ref who did sign on for that card would have kind of been viewed in the community as a scab. Which is, I mean, if Big John McCarthy saying shit like that, that is...
No.
Man, that carries a lot of fucking weight. So, really interesting. There's also an interview with Dwayne Bang Ludwig, which, I mean, it's Dwayne Bang Ludwig, who is quite a character anyway, and also there's, like, TJ talk, so that's why it's more of a catch than me than can't miss, but overall, I think John McCarthy has to be one of the people that's most important to listen to, and especially in these kinds of situations that so deeply involve both the commission side of the sport as well as the government side of the sport as well as the promotion side of the sport. I feel like he's one of the few people who has so many decades of experience in all three of those aspects that he's probably one of the most important to listen to.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Well, on a lighter note, Chris, my other catch. So this is what I've done this week. I have a very serious catch, or I have a very serious one, and then I have a lighthearted one to lighten the mood. Chris, we talked about Tiger King and how good it is, right?
Oh yeah, that bitch Carol Baskins.
Oh goddamn Carol Baskins. Yeah, no. Joe Exotic talking about dropping grenades out of a helicopter on her property. 100%. Well, Sean Sheehan, the pod god himself, put out an interview with Andy Motherfucker. I did this in the middle of the week also. Severe MMA, Tiger King. What the fuck is Andy's goddamn last name? Andy. Oh, good. Sean just put Andy in the description.
Was it the Maldonado kid?
No, it's Andy. I know it's Andy and not. I keep wanting to say Andrew McGann, but it's not him. It's Andy something. Here, I'll pull it up while I'm talking. But Sean Sheehan and Andy went through and they did they basically talked a lot about Tiger King, which was really funny. But the reason why it was especially hilarious, Andy Stevenson. Jesus Christ, took me long enough. Andy Stevenson and Sean talk about it, and they go through. They just talk about who's the worst person, and who's the best person. Like, did Joe try to have Karen killed? They recap the doc overall. They talk about how Saf is clearly one of the most normal people. Which also, side note, Adam Hunter got Saf on his podcast. Saf from Tiger King, who's the person with the one arm.
Yep. I remember that.
Who's by far the best person in that documentary. Like, if there was any person I want to hang out with in that documentary, it's probably Saf. But Saf. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say just based on the circumstances. If you watch a show, what happens to Saf? And just based on, just.
Also, Saf just seems like the most normal motherfucker in that whole place.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, overall, Saf was dope as hell, and they ended up going on Adam Hunter's show, MMA Roasted, to talk to him and Mayhem Miller, which I haven't listened to, but I feel like it's probably quite a thing.
Yeah.
Mayhem Miller has some Tiger questions that he wants answered for sure. So that's probably pretty good. And then the reason why I'm even bringing this up, because it's not MMA related until they get to the end, where they do MMA comparisons for each of the characters in the movie, and oh my god, are they fucking amazing! I honestly haven't laughed this hard in at least a week or two, and that includes a couple comedians' comedy specials that I watched. Shots fired at Joe Rogan's friends, but holy shit, are there some for example, Carol Baskins, Chris, they compared to Ronda or Diego Sanchez. Which is, both of those are really good. They also both decided that obviously Connor is Joe Exotic, which amazing and very factual. They also said Jeff Lowe, who's the dude in all the Affliction gear, is obviously any promoter ever.
Yeah.
And then they mentioned John Lewis, John Rinke, Saf, Eric, and John Finley. They all had fighter comparisons for. I don't want to give them all away, but oh my god, are they hilarious. I can't recommend it highly enough. I literally had to stop. I had to stop making dinner and walk away because I was laughing too hard. It's really, really funny. So Severe MMA Podcast Premium, which is their Patreon feed, the Tiger King reaction special is just absolutely insane. Also, there's one comparison that Sean Sheehan decides he cannot make. And I'm not going to give it away because I couldn't figure it out. I had to actually message him and ask him, and it's the funniest shit I've probably ever heard. I understand why he didn't say it, but if you really look between the lines, you can probably figure it out, and it's real good. It's real good. So that is my catch for this week. Man, it's barely MMA related. I will give it that credit, but I wanted to give a lighthearted, fun thing along with the dark brooding Big John interview kind of thing. So, oh boy. So Chris, I said I wasn't going to do any skips during this whole quarantine thing, right?
Well, you lied, right?
I fucking super lied. Because just like I dropped their name last week, the Shannon Sharp co-host award for Skip goes to anything MMA Junkie Radio put out this week that didn't come out of Richard Hunter's mouth. Holy fucking shit, man! And that's not true because I need to specify specifically Gorgeous George goes and John Morgan this week And John Morgan less so than Gorgeous George and Ghost. They were the worst. John Morgan at least was like, I put John Morgan more on the John Anik tier of irresponsible, in the like semi-irresponsible to what the fuck are you even doing at this point with your fucking life, man, irresponsible, that I put Gorgeous George on specifically. I feel like Goes isn't even necessarily on that very bottom tier, but like, listen, I'm specifically talking about episode 3042 on April 8th. Listen, I get it. I get that you're looking for content. I get that you're struggling to fill time. I get it, man. But, well, first off, Gorgeous George reads a promo ad during this episode for Sportscaster. It legit sounds like he recorded it on his phone in the bathroom. We can start there. It's a bad ad read. The echo, everything is bad about it. But more importantly, they don't even address any of the moral questions about the card. They don't really talk about whether or not the card should happen. They just assume the card's gonna happen. They also, this was before it got announced why Rose Namajunas dropped off the card. So there was a lot of talk about, well, why did the UFC even book Rose Namajunas knowing all of her anxiety problems? Because she was probably going to drop off the card anyway. And like, why would you even have her booked? At one point, Gorgeous George, this is a real thing that happened. He asks whether he thinks, do you think Dana probably created a UFC coronavirus task force like Trump did? That's a real statement that happened during that episode. And then he circled back around to repeat it again. They do bring up that the fight's probably happening in Tachi Palace, which has been closed down for the last 3 weeks. And then just keep on talking about the card.
It's like, you can just stop talking.
Dude, also, like, I get that you got, here's the thing. I understand that they are like, they've always have been, and they've been very transparent about like, hey, I don't know that they consider themselves journalists at all. I don't think they do. I think they consider themselves like MMA
they would call themselves
and fans.
Personalities.
Yeah,
just a personality.
Who do a show. Right, and I that's cool. But like, also, at what point do you just owe it to your audience to show any kind of just respect to their opinion, to be like, hey, listen, at least address, like, I guess my question is, like, how are you able to just come on and basically do PR for a card that is kind of unconscionable and not express any kind of, like, weirdness about it? Like, not express being uncomfortable talking about it, not really express that whether or not you want the card to happen. Just, like, come on and just pretend like, oh, well, they're doing everything they could, and, like,
let me guess. They go, oh, let's just give a hand to Dana White. I mean, what a fucking awesome boss he is.
No,
leader.
It wasn't that bad. Let me go out of my way. It wasn't that bad. But it wouldn't have even been, I wouldn't have brought this up, except for, at the end of all that, they're like, well, so now that they booked Gaethje versus Ferguson for the interim title, what do we do with Conor McGregor, bro? Who's he gonna fight? And we're like, we're still doing this? We're doing this during a fucking pandemic. We're still fantasy booking the dude who doesn't fight during a pandemic when we're not putting on fights. Like, that's how we're... So, it's a skip for me. Also, I don't know about everybody else, but my suggestion would be maybe don't sign off of your podcast by saying, come on, guys, let's just keep on working. I mean, COVID-19 starting to lose a few rounds against us, and we just need to keep on. That's a real quote also. So, it's just kind of unconscionable. And then also, it would not have been brought up if it wasn't for the Triple G Show, episode 67, where John Morgan and Richard Hunter were on with Gorgeous George and Goes. And Richard Hunter, shocking, is the responsible journalist in the room, because Richard Hunter has no ties to any media outlets. Richard Hunter makes his own living doing his own thing. Richard Hunter does not need Dana White or the UFC or access to any fighters. And so, Richard explains how it's not okay to take medical resources away from a hospital during a time like this. And then it's just a lot of, like, talking about the island. Gorgeous George says he thinks that fights might be starting up again in May 1st, like by the end of the month.
So, can I ask, if I were to ask him, I would just say, hey, where is Shang Tsung? Where is his island?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Who's participating? Outworld, right? Or whatever.
Outworld,
come on, dude.
or we could have a real Han Island kind of situation. Some old school Bruce Lee shit. Or as you might think.
What was that? Wasn't it Enter the Dragon with the tournament?
Yeah, Enter the Dragon. Or if you're a modern video game player, Sleeping Dogs, or as the Giant Bomb guys like to refer to it,
that
Dogs.
DLC is absolutely great,
dude.
It's so good.
The tournament DLC in Sleepy Dogs is also I love people who call it Sleepy Dogs. It's the funniest way to refer to that game.
I remember that DLC so you can get.
Also, I think it's like $4 on PS Plus right now.
You can get like some giant sword and just carve the fuck up out of people and shit.
It's so good.
I remember I would be an asshole. I'd like hide. I think there's like a little hotel lobby, and you could like hide behind a door, and I'd fucking just murder everything possible.
You can literally rock the orange jumpsuit or the yellow jumpsuit from the Bruce Lee yellow jumpsuit and everything. Yep. So good.
You can also even get a George St. Pierre.
Yes, I forgot about the GSP outfit. Yes. And
I remember I would go around just fucking Superman punching every civilian in the face.
Oh, that game's really good.
Yeah. Anyway. That game is also known as True Crime Hong Kong, by the way.
Yes, it's one of the craziest development stories of all time, and it's so sad it's never going to get a sequel.
Yeah, I think it's because the studio shut down, or they went.
Yeah, everything broke around that game. I'm amazed there was even DLC, but anyway, so yeah, overall just frustrating. There's like some of Gorgeous George at one point trying to justify bringing doctors away from hospitals. Where he's like, well, maybe they're bringing doctors out of retirement and like bringing them to the event. Where you're like, what the fuck?
Like, dude, I almost
so we're bringing a doctor that hasn't worked in. We're bringing a doctor who hasn't worked in years to work a fucking cage fight. Like that's our workaround during a pandemic.
Bring Dr. Oz. He's a doctor.
Jeez, yeah, exactly. It's very, very, very frustrating, the whole thing.
I'm just getting irritated again. Like I was just hearing stupid outlandish shit like this. It just actually just like I shouldn't get irritated, but it's just so irresponsible and fucking ridiculous. Like no one should be.
It's literally unconscionable. But
it's inconceivable.
Inconceivable. I do want to give credit to Richard Hunter though. He was like the sober voice during all that, being like, hey, you guys are really trying to take doctors out of hospitals during a pandemic right now so we can have fucking cage fights? Like, he was a very sober...
If I was a doctor, I'd be like, oh yeah, I just watched like 10 people die and, I'm basically just in a war zone right now. What are they doing? They're doing a fight? Oh, I can't deal with that right now.
Well, that's the funniest shit is like, yo, can you imagine the faces of fucking trauma center people when you try and say... oh, well, yeah, we had a fight tonight, so I need you to sew up this dude's face. You're like, are you out of your fucking mind? Everybody here is either sick or you're not from this fucking city and you're possibly bringing the disease to this trauma center. What the fuck are you doing? Like, that's the thing that nobody talks about, too, is like, hey, Jessica Andrade was on that card, coming from Brazil, who's currently in Vegas right now. So, like, not only is Jessica Andrade not in Brazil, where people can't even leave anymore because they can't get fucking visas, and now Jessica Andrade is, I don't know if she's back from Vegas or what, but she was theoretically supposed to come from Brazil to Vegas and then drive or get a private jet to California, where she then fights, and then that trauma center has to theoretically deal with some chick from Brazil who fought on a fucking fight card, and like... maybe she has something. She got a home test at one point, so maybe it's cool. The fuck are we doing? Just unconscionable. So yeah, hearing them kind of speak positively at all was frustrating. And then Well, I really have to pee super bad, so why don't you talk briefly about my can't miss episode, which you did listen to, which was Severe MMA episode 256.
I hope it was 256 because this says, what does it say here when I listened on SoundCloud? I listened to, I think I did. Wait, let me double check, guys.
Was it the one after it was canceled or before it was canceled?
Okay, I listened to whatever this says on SoundCloud latest tracks. It says free premium. Jake Smith joined.
Oh,
they talked about.
I didn't even listen to that. So why don't you talk about that and I'll be right back.
Yeah, he had a Jake Smith, and I don't think it's the same Jake Smith from. No, it's definitely not the same Jake Smith from The Writer and The Fighter. This guy is an Irishman, fellow Irishman, alongside Sean Sheehan. They mainly talk about just the Bellator the scrapped every card, right? Just their interactions with a lot of Bellator fighters, staff. Josh Thompson in general is a great lad, according to Sean. They just kind of talked about the fights in a theoretical sense of who did you have with Ngannou versus Jairzinho, who did you have Gaethje versus Tony. I was kind of passively listening to it. But no, these guys had a lot of jokes, a lot of laughs. I was hearing a lot of stories in Dublin, a lot of interactions with other local fighters on the scene, and it felt like a really wholesome episode. And appreciate, Sean for putting it out for free, at least this episode, because it's his premium content, and I know that's what kind of helps him when he gets support from those of us that enjoy his content. And, of course, we at The Sound of Violence hate to talk in third person like Ricky Henderson, but I guess I'm not in third person anymore, but a little bit. But, we enjoy his content a lot, so we always appreciate it. Yeah, it was a solid episode. I just kind of listened to it when I was doing some other things, and just the easiest point that he brings up, the fight was never going to happen because where the fuck is there a hospital on the island? Just obvious questions such as that. So I imagine this wasn't the Jake Smith from The Writer and The Fighter, right? That's what I thought, because this guy's Irish. I mean, this isn't the same one. Yeah. Yeah, no, it was solid. I was saying I was kind of listening to it passively, but there was a lot of laughs. A lot of it was kind of more wholesome talk with interactions they'd had with Bellator staff, locals in Dublin. They talked theoretically about the fights that were supposed to happen. I mean, they knew they weren't going to happen. Like, who do you have in this fight? Gaethje, Tony, that kind of thing. It was a fun, entertaining listen. And I mentioned quickly before you just got back, Sean brings up the obvious question, the fight, is there a hospital on the island?
Yep. That was, yeah. Sean Sheehan has been, I know we've been on Twitter asking a bunch of questions to a bunch of fucking, you be glad you ended up muting our mentions, because our mentions have been a fucking trash fire this week. I asked Dan Hooker at one point. Dan Hooker was like, oh, fucking Fight Island, I'm hyped. I'm like, respectfully, Dan Hooker, Fight Island would be rad as hell, but it's super irresponsible to fly a bunch of fighters to an island from all over the world during a fucking global pandemic. And that lit up our mentions for about 3 days of people being like, but bro, they're gonna test them, bro. And that was before they even said they were testing them, so yeah, it was pretty ridiculous. But yeah, I mentioned to you to listen to the most recent Severe MMA. I forgot that the most recent Severe MMA I was listening to was from the premium feed, which is the Patreon one. So yeah, I actually didn't catch the Jake Smith interview, but that's dope though. It's on my list still to get to. So I like that.
I'm looking at the mentions right now. I'm kind of curious about this because I didn't realize I didn't get the notifications because I had my own Twitter on. I always forgot I have to switch it. Let me see.
It's bad. It's just like a trash fire of like all these dum-dums who are like speaking in broken English, even though they're like white Anglo-Saxons who've always lived in America. It's very confusing.
Remember, there's a lot of dumb white people though.
I would argue there's mostly dumb white people based on Twitter.
And yeah,
or based on high school even. I can say there's mostly dumb white people. Well, there's mostly dumb people. We could just say it like that, to be fair, and less racist. So my can't miss, while Chris is looking at our mentions, I'm sure he's gonna die laughing once he gets a couple days back. I see
Someone's name is just "Stay the fuck home," and it's a picture of Joe Exotic with like Trump's haircut. Like, what the fuck? It
Oh
says
yeah,
like your reply.
yeah. No,
Okay.
there's a lot of stuff going on in those mentions for a while. Like me getting yelled at by people. Fucking, I got into it with Campbell McLaren at one point this week. It's been a long week. Let's see, but my can't miss is Severe MMA episode 256, which came out today on their premium feed for Patreon. I'm not sure if it drops tonight or tomorrow. Probably tomorrow, I would assume. Anyway, I just think Sean Sheehan overall, and I will say full disclosure, I've been talking to Sean Sheehan most of the week also, just through like DMs and back and forth. I mean, he drops into my daily chats half the time and stuff like that too. So, and you guys know Sean listens to the show and we're talking to him all the time. So, full disclosure on that. But honestly, Sean Sheehan is my can't miss because he has been the most vocal outside of Trent Ryan-Smith. I would say Luke Thomas, but Luke Thomas even stopped talking so much shit because he got so much backlash from fighters and fans. Whereas Sean Sheehan and Trent Ryan-Smith just doubled down, as they should, because they're right. They're fucking right. And they were, through this entire thing, handled everything correctly. They were right that the fight shouldn't happen. They were right that fans were handling it poorly. They were right that the media was handling it poorly. And Sean brings up a really good point during this as well, which Luke Thomas actually brought up on his live chat also, which Chris, I'd like to get your take kind of on this. Okay, I can tell you, I can tell. Go ahead. What was it?
I was like, what? This is when you were tweeting out Fight Island would be rad as hell. Okay. Someone said, oh, some chick. I won't say her name. Let's just say some person. Excuse me. I don't
the one
know.
with the best English, I'd like to say.
I don't get how it's any different to WWD going ahead. They would have all required medical on standby like they always do. Not sure why it matters. WWE's mainly acting either. Wait. You're kind of comparing it to acting? I mean, we know
those were pre-taped events.
Yeah.
From
They've stopped production on movie and TV sets too. Laugh out loud. UFC always has medical as priority due to the nature of the sport. This would be no different in health. And like,
go ahead and look at the replies to that last one.
have any of the Brasilia fighters got it? The Rona? She didn't say the Rona.
No, I meant look at my... Can you see my reply to that one that she said?
Yeah, let's see. I saw her with some shitty Ryan Reynolds gif. Whatever, dude. I've wasted too much time. Go back to your podcast.
No, you need to scroll further up on that thread. Because she...
Oh, yeah, you. The UFC always has a medical as a priority. Me, what about the clear example of them literally not doing it less than 30 days ago? I can't speak for UFC.
Yeah, she literally was like, the UFC always has the highest priority of medicals. I'm like, they didn't test anybody in Brasilia. She's like, I can't speak for the UFC. I'm like, what? You just did. It was a lot of that on Twitter. But anyway, yeah, no, Severe MMA. I'd like to get your take, Chris, on Sean Sheehan... where was I? What was I gonna get your take on? I fucking totally lost it because of that one bitch. Motherfucker. Sorry, I'm trying to read through my notes and see what it was. I don't remember what it was. I don't know. Anyway, great episode from Sean Sheehan. If you guys remember what I was going to say a couple minutes ago, let me know, and I will get back to it. But let's see. Man, I was hoping if I unmuted the audio from the video, it would be back enough, but it's not. I wish I could remember what the question was. I know I'm dragging this to a complete fucking screeching halt, but it was an interesting thing that got brought up. I forget. I completely forget. But yeah, no, it was just really good seeing Sean Sheehan in general be kind of the adult in the room, along with a couple other people, to just honestly and accurately report shit. And this is the kind of week in MMA media where you figure out a lot of them don't know what their job... Oh, no, I remember what it is now. I knew when I started talking about it I would. Chris, I'd like to get your take on how much of MMA media. So the big critique from both fighters and fans and managers this week, and the promotion, to be honest, is that MMA media needs to only talk about MMA when they have something positive to say. That was like the big critique from all four parties, right? That you saw online?
Well, I just remember you mentioned that one Full House. He's the one who said that, right?
Well, no, but I mean, every manager, Malky Kawa and Ali.
Oh yeah, no, they're all. That's all. It's all a trash take. That's all a trash take.
Well, no, but here's my question though. Yes, like they absolutely all are. They don't understand the difference between PR and media, right?
Yeah.
Because like media, it doesn't, by definition, especially journalists, by definition, should not be doing PR. That's not their fucking job.
Yeah, PR is an entirely different department than regular journalism.
Well, it's literally,
there's a lot of people that don't understand that.
It's
PR is
opposite. It's the opposite person's job. PR is the company's job. Not
and PR is subjectively representing a fucking entity or a company.
Right.
When journalism is objectivity. Like people, I shouldn't say people. It's
say dum-dums like you mean.
Dum-dums, yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%. So, but here's my question. Is that MMA media's fault because they just do PR? Like, I won't say all of them because they don't all. But a vast majority of well, I'm not even going to call it journalism because they intentionally don't call it journalism because they don't
just call them representatives, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah, a good portion of MMA media does not at all do objective reporting at all. Even a little bit for anybody, fighters, the promotion, anybody. So, like, is it their fault that fans are expecting them to be doing PR because that's what they mostly do? So then, when they do speak out, fans are
doing
confused?
It to themselves.
I mean, it's kind of everybody's fault, right? It's definitely MMA media's fault as well, because also no media, like, it's very rare to get media members standing up for people like Josh Gross or Trent Ryan-Smith or
and shouts out to his tweet. I remember I don't think I replied because I was fucked up, but that was really good. That tweet that he had.
It was Josh Gross tweeting save. Wait, was it Josh Gross tweeting save the whales or him explaining PR to a manager?
He was explaining PR. I believe
to the guy who blocked us. Actually,
yeah, I think that was the one you sent me.
Yeah, Josh Gross also at one point this week just tweeted "Save the whales," and I was like, "Looking, so justified." Maybe, hey, you know what? I will give one thing credit, Chris. Your motherfucking college puts out good journalists in the sport of MMA. Because as far as I know, well, you don't even do journalism for MMA, but as far as I know, the three journalists...
Not yet, right?
The three... Yeah, if I was you, I would stay the fuck away.
No, okay, on a serious note, though, just based on, like, if any... I'm not even kidding. If I were to get into MMA journalism, and they said, oh, so you did a podcast? They would literally listen to a couple episodes. All right, you're fucking out.
Yeah, no, 100%.
I'm not even kidding. I'm like, it would be actually, like... I'd probably have to represent myself, or literally, I'd have to stop doing this podcast first. Is what I could never do this again, and I'd have to do. I would honestly, I'd have to stop doing this. Unfortunately, which would be fun because I love doing this, and I'd have to do my own thing, but representing, objectively. So
that's right. Although then I would just produce your new thing and then fucking launch nuclear questions at you during the middle of the show.
Oh no, I already told you. I'm mostly getting into music journalism anyway.
Oh, it's smart. It's smart because music journalism, there's a lot less shitheads who are music managers that have anything worth
it's like, hey,
to say.
So did you like the album? No? All right.
Yeah. It's not music journalists who are like, I'm going to fucking fight you since you didn't like the album, you fucking queer. You're like, whoa!
It's like it's ironic because it's not. It's half of that. It ironically is not from like say more aggressive music, say like metal or punk, but it's ironically from like indie. It's like some indie hippie fuck like music, call someone some derogatory shit.
No, 100%. Like fucking 100%. Anyway, way off the rails, but yeah, I do want to point out like. And Sean Sheehan brought this up on Severe MMA as well. A good portion of the blowback on MMA media, Luke Thomas brought this up also, it's because of MMA media's fucking fault. Like, they don't act like media. A lot of times they act like PR. which I've gone off on a couple different journalists this week on the daily shows, one of which I think I named by name, which I probably shouldn't have done, but whatever.
Well, you could always edit it out, just beep it.
No, I didn't. It's up there. You guys want to look back at our YouTube stuff. She's a journalist who is real friendly. Well, actually, look back through our mentions at a journalist. Go find our Campbell McLaren tweets and you'll figure out who it is real quick. Let's just say, hey Chris, how would it be viewed in the journalism circles if you're an MMA or if you're a media member who who generally is speaking positively about any negative comments about a promoter? They'll show up in the mentions and stand for the promoter. And also, they have pictures with other promoters. And also I should mention before that, the promoter who they're standing for, they mostly just write fluff piece articles about upcoming events that are essentially PR. And then also, what if that same promoter randomly was able to afford to go to the other side of the globe to cover a very small one championship event? And then, weird, they ended up in a one championship hoodie by the end of the night, taking a picture with it. How does journalism feel about things like that?
Yeah, it's 3 words, and it's always just the biggest no-no. And besides plagiarism.
Yeah, besides Kenny Florian.
Yes. It's called conflict of interest, and we'll say that a million times as much as we can.
And it's a real easy way to avoid conflict of interest. You disclose conflicts of interest.
Yep.
Because if you disclose them, no longer a conflict of interest. Then people can decide how they feel about it or not. But if you just post, hey, look, I lost so much weight I can fit into my one championship hoodie, probably a conflict of interest if you're doing regular fucking fluff pieces for them. Journalists who I will not mention. But you guys can super figure it out. And also, she's the head of that site. Or she's the main editor at that site, which is... Also, I've heard stories of her telling a cop, a long-tenured cop, that he can't do an article about a domestic violence situation in MMA because he doesn't have enough experience. That's a real thing. I'm not... That one is unconfirmed. That is me tying... It's like me, Charlie... That is the most rumor of all time. But... The threads kind of line up. Anyway, this is me doing the most speculative bullshit because I have no ties and I'm not a journalist, so I can do whatever I want.
I think I'm done.
Ground. 100%. Which, Chris, this is why I did it this way. So, it's brutal. It's been a brutal week of sad, frustrating things in MMA journalism, in MMA, in the promotion. There's no fights going on. But you know what would really make you feel better right now, Chris?
I can think of a number of things, but go ahead.
So if I was to say, hey, MMA depressed us with... I keep wanting to say Sean Sheehan, but it's not Sean Sheehan. It's because I'm reading his name. MMA depressed us with Connor Rebush, Phil McKenzie, and Zane Simon. Great show, right?
Yeah. No, it's funny.
What if I was to tell you they did a movie? They did a commentary for a movie instead of a bad MMA fight. They did a bad MMA movie.
How bad was that movie we did? What was it, a week ago?
Oh, that one was pretty bad. But what if I was to tell you that they did a commentary for Never Back Down to the Beatdown?
I'm with it.
It's the greatest thing of all time. We've done a commentary for that same movie. You should watch theirs, get super trashed, and then watch ours, is my suggestion. Because theirs is way better and ours is way drunker. But holy fuck, is this thing funny. Here, I'll just gonna pick some random lines and let you guys take with it what you will. Here, Lyoto Machida doing piss keg stands. Most of the movie plot lines being about repressed homophobia making people rage. Phil once tried the paper punching trick, and it was super easy.
Oh, is that fucking thing where Michael J. White's this, and what do you have to do? You have to 1-inch punch it?
No, you hang the piece of paper, and you have to punch a hole in it. It's the funniest fucking thing. Also, Todd Duffy looking unconvincing as an MMA fighter, and every single part of the movie being exactly how MMA fighters think. It's fucking amazing.
Isn't there that one kid, he like cuts his hair and becomes like a neo-Nazi?
Yep.
Yeah, god damn it.
One of my favorite parts is they're like, in a martial arts movie, they'd say, like, when the dude kills somebody and he shows up at the master's dojo, or his trailer in this case, normally in a martial arts movie, they'd be like, I didn't train you to kill people. In this movie, they're like, hey, I have warrants. You need to get out of here. And it's just a lot of that. It's an amazing, amazing commentary. You won't listen to anything better this week. It's the funniest thing I heard all fucking week. That and the Shang-Chi and Tiger King thing. I died laughing at both of them, and it's really fun. If you want something lighthearted, go rent Never Back Down on YouTube for $2 or $3 or whatever it is, and watch this, and listen to the commentary from the MMA Depressed. It's the best fucking thing around. It's a great thing if you're looking for a day drinking movie to watch with Kyle and Trevor. That is the perfect one.
All right, well, I'll definitely check that out.
Word. I'll rattle through the new shows I listened to real quick this week. Wrestling for MMA, episode 3. This is a show hosted by Ed Gallo, where he takes a look at the wrestling game of Mike Brown. It's pretty cool. He essentially just goes back, looks at a couple of their previous fights. Like, he looked at the Genki Shudo fight and the Eve Edwards fight in Bodog, and yeah, it just does like a technical wrestling breakdown, stuff like how Mike Brown he prefers underhooks, and he really tightened up a lot of his entries as his career progressed, stuff like that, which was cool. Real quick with Mike Swick, he's doing quarantine episodes. Number 1 was with Tyron Woodley. And he's essentially just checking in with fighters and friends and seeing how they're doing. So, talks about how Tyron did his camp at AKA Thailand, and this was like during the lead up when Tyron was trying to get the fight in with Leon Edwards, and kind of talks about that whole crazy process and all that. So, he said he literally got the call that the fight was off right when he was about to head to the airport, which is crazy. FNA, which is what is it? It's Felder and Anik, episode 3. I keep wanting to say Florian and Anik, but it's FNA, Felder and Anik, which is their Q&A show. I listened to episode 3, which is on April 9th. It's pretty cool. It's just them basically doing an IG Live Q&A show talking about 249 and their plans with that. Danny Segura TV. I listened to the first of... this is the first I've listened to of Danny Segura's like solo content that he's been doing on YouTube, and I really liked it a lot. He talked about his reaction to UFC 249 getting canceled, and that dude is one of the guys who is like one of the more articulate, sober people in. And I don't mean sober like not drinking. I mean sober like articulate and sober in like that he's very like well tempered, for lack of a better term, and he seems like a dude who really thinks his ideas through, and is very good at articulating his ideas, and I appreciate it. So, shouts to Danny Segura. I really like what he's doing. I need to listen to more of his stuff. And then lastly, Invicta did a new segment on their YouTube channel, which is cool as hell, called Invicta Rewind, which is Leslie Smith versus Caitlin Young and Invicta 1, where essentially what they did, Chris, which I think you'll like this a lot, on their YouTube channel, they basically played the full clip from Fight Pass of Caitlin Young versus Leslie Smith in Invicta 1, which is a fucking incredible fight. And then TJ DeSantis essentially recorded video with each of the people while they watched it all the way through individually, and then he sliced together their 2 responses throughout the fight. So, like, sometimes it'd be, like, Leslie Smith talking, like, about during her walkout, and then it would be Caitlin Young talking during her walkout, and there'd be parts where they're both watching the same part, and Leslie Smith goes, huh, I was a year older than her? And you hear Caitlin Young go, huh, she was a year older than me? So it's, like, it's kind of cool hearing both their takes at the same time. They're, like, going back and forth, like, her Caitlin Young saying like, I think I was getting to Leslie Smith with the leg kicks. Leslie Smith talking like, yeah, the leg kicks were definitely getting to me, but I was just kind of getting more amped and just trying to push the pace more. And it's very cool hearing that like dynamic back and forth as you're seeing the fight play out. And it's one of the greatest fights in Invicta history. It's kind of what made that promotion on that first event. So really cool and worth checking out for sure.
Nice, man.
Here, I'm going to sprint through these right now. I'm literally just going to name them off. But if the shoes fit, UFC Island, you guys heard the clip on the intro. If the shoes fit, finally covered the UFC again because they've
God damn it.
Because it was finally so fucked up what was going on that they had to come. Remember, if you remember the clip that Alexi put out, he's like, listen, if they are a big enough story, we will talk about the UFC. But we are not going to be beholden to an organization that clearly does not give a fuck. And so he was like, this was such a crazy story, we got to talk about it. So, that was very cool. I recommend checking that one out. It's pretty wild. Come On Now, which is Trent Reinsmith's podcast. Episode 27 through 31 this week was all really good. It's just him talking about, like, news stories that need to be talked about. He's one of the most responsible journalists in the sport right now. Everything from, he was one of the people, I mean, he's the dude. If you hear Dana White say, this journalist was saying, it's always Trent Reinsmith right now. Because Trent Reinsmith is doing good goddamn reporting. That's how you know you're doing good reporting, is if the owner of the company you're reporting on is mad at you, you're probably doing really good reporting, right? Let's see. Shawnee Podcast Q&A for April 7th for Severe MMA Patreon was really good. The co-main event live chat for April 8th was really solid as well. Ben Folks has a great quote about MMA fans on Twitter being fucking babies. He's like, it's so hard for me to read reactions on Twitter and not just be like, oh, you poor baby, are you not going to get your fights? You're not going to get your fights? You're very mad about your fights? Which I really fucking appreciated, because it's hard not to just talk to everybody on Twitter like that. Where you're like, oh, are you worried? You rather have people die because you want your fights. It's fucking great. Writer and the Fighter we talked about. Episode 64 was really good. Jake Smith had Jake Smith talking about how the fuck are fighters gonna see Dana White either being able to buy or rent an island and being like, oh, well, I want to fight there so I can get 20%, which is fucking a great point. A-Side Live Chat for Monday, April 6th. Jose Young's Alex K. Lee and Joe Lozon was really good. Coast to Coast Combat Hour with Jonathan Burke was really solid, where he talks about the early days of training under Hoist Gracie. Fights Gone By, episode 203 was really solid from April 9th with Jack Slack, talking about the fist fight at the end of the world and all the rumored locations. Anakin Florian, episode 244 was very solid, actually. Really liked, Anik actually said some interesting things. Anik hinted that, like, a lot of the UFC staff didn't want this card to happen, but Dana White said it was, so he's like, guess I'm going. He also talks a bit about Bisping, they talk to Bisping, rather, who calls in and says shit like Eddie Bravo should be fucking ashamed, which, fair. Severe MMA, their reaction to UFC 249 being canceled was solid. Luke Thomas's reaction to UFC 249 being canceled was solid. Some more cancellation shows that were good. Our MMA show, The Man and the Myth. And, those are my main ones I wanted to cover. Chris, did you have anything you wanted to shout out that you've been doing that's not MMA related, like video games or TV shows or anything?
Yeah. So I was going to check out some more movies and shows, but I got distracted because I got an emulator for my MacBook, and I downloaded some rad stuff.
So all above board. Chris definitely owns all these games, too.
Yes, I paid for these.
It's the most convincing. Go ahead.
Yeah, so we'll leave it at that. And but yeah, I just been playing some nostalgic stuff that's been pretty rad. This kind of going down childhood memory lane kind of shit. It's been cool, man. Just easy way to kill time.
For sure. Yeah, I hooked back up the Raspberry Pi this week that I have set up with. I want to say MU Station might be the one I'm using or something like that. It's like one of the front ends that like basically lets you use a whole ton of different emulators.
I have something like that.
Yeah,
as well.
RetroPie does something similar, which Zane Simon's been using. Let's see. Is there anything else you want to shout out, like video games or anything?
Yeah, I just been still playing a lot of MLB The Show because I think I mentioned earlier. they officially are doing a players league. So for all you people there or baseball fans out there, and you have a favorite team, one of your favorite players is likely representing your team in the tournament. So I know tomorrow, I'm a huge Padres fan, so Fernando Tatis Jr., he's one of the young stars in the game. He'll be playing tomorrow. They play each person. It's a 3-inning game on veteran difficulty because, they need players who don't play the game to have a chance. So they just do 4 games, 4 quick games a match, and they all start like at 6 p.m. Pacific each day. And it's going to be, I think they said the World Series event, whatever they're going to do, or the finals matchup, I think will be like May 1st or May 2nd. So it's just kind of cool because you just see, two baseball players just talking shit to each other, on Twitch, on YouTube. Fun. And some of them get into it. They dress up in their full uniform and everything too. Yeah.
That's super funny. Hell yeah, man. I might have to check some of that out. That sounds fun.
Yeah, man. I'll send you a link. So.
Fuck yeah. Let's see. The only ones I got is obviously It's the Real Quarantine Radio. Hey, look at that. I finally figured out why. So remember how, I don't know if I think I was doing this last week too. Every time I try and say the word quarantine, I have a panic attack and say quarantine. I don't know if I don't know if I did that last week, but I've been doing it on the daily shows. I figured out why.
I think I would have heard you. I think I would have called you out if you said quarantine.
Well, so the problem is every time I kept thinking Clementine and having a panic attack. But now that I've figured that out, I can say quarantine. I almost said quarantine. But every time.
It's called quarantiney.
I know. And speaking of quarantines, Alton Brown's Quarantine Kitchen streams with his wife. Have you heard this? You know who Alton Brown is, right? The Food Channel guy?
I know who Alton. Yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah, from Good Eats and everything. He's amazing.
Yeah.
First off, just
no, I watched his video how to use the saber on like a champagne bottle.
Yeah. He's just a great person in general.
I may or may not have at my old job taken one of those Badois, like the really nice big French sparkling water bottles, and I used a really sharp kitchen knife and I fucking did it. I was like, oh shit.
You can also, pro tip for any fucking savage drunks out there that be outside when you do this and don't point it at anybody. You can actually use another champagne bottle to do it.
Yeah,
like you can take a champagne bottle and use the bottom of the other champagne bottle to saber it. It also ups the danger factor a bit, but there's a couple. Everybody check out Zane Lampers, or Zane Lamprey. Actually, is his real name. My girlfriend calls him Zane Lampers, but Zane Lamprey has lots of or Three Sheets, the TV show. Anyway, So Alton Brown has been doing Quarantine Kitchen. See, I almost did it again. Where he does a stream with his wife, and essentially they just hang out and make food and talk to everybody on stream. But a lot of it is him making a cocktail, his wife making fun of him, and then him just looking at the camera very seriously and taking a very long drink like he's angry. It's super funny, and it's very cute. They're just hanging out with their dogs, making food. It's fun. It's fun quarantine content. So I definitely.
That reminds me. If you have the extra cash, if not, no worries. Try and support the restaurant industry by ordering takeout if you can. If not, totally understandable.
Also
I'm
going
to do that
too.
Yes, I'm gonna do that tomorrow. I remember you mentioned to me Buds, Louisiana. I haven't done that yet. I think I'm gonna have to do that tomorrow.
You have to do pickup for them, but they do curbside. So
I might just have to do that, dude. I think I have to do the red beans and rice with the chicken breast sliced on top. It's so fucking good,
dude. That and their po' boy game is insane.
Yep.
I mean,
fuck it. That's what I'm doing tomorrow. Yeah. I'm gonna convince Trevor too, because I know he has his own diet. But I'm like, dude, you gotta have a cheat day, man. Because he kept talking about Domino's pizza. I'm like, bro,
if you're gonna have Domino's, a cheat day, you don't have to convince him much. Tell that motherfucker they got po' boys, and he'll be down for sure.
Yeah.
Dude, their grilled shrimp po' boy are fucking primo. You know what? I'm actually may end up hitting up Buds too, since I've been baking hella bread lately. I made a fucking beer cheese bread with Burning Beard's normal core, which is like their I should have used an IPA, but girlfriend Karen hates IPAs, but it was with cheddar, so I should have done IPA. But it turned out pretty good. But I've been doing a lot of like no knead breads, where you just throw a bunch of fucking flour and some yeast and some salt in a bowl, let it sit overnight, fold it over, throw it in an oven, and that shit's delicious. So I have a no knead bread I gotta drop off from my madre tomorrow in Claremont, so maybe I'll might have to swing by and get some buds as well. And yeah, if you guys are over in San Diego, and hopefully it still exists by then, Buds in San Diego is fucking delicious. Louisiana food, originally started by a guy from New Orleans, and the way he works, I believe he's originally from New Orleans, but the way it's a guy who owns a bunch of restaurant groups, and essentially when he starts a restaurant, he works at it for long enough until the employees can end up owning it, and then the employees run it while he starts up a next restaurant. So right now, since he was able to sell it to the employees, so the employees now own Buds in Claremont, and he opened a new one in downtown called Bud and Rob's, if I remember right.
Oh, rad.
Yeah, he's a very cool dude who's done like a lot for the restaurant industry down here. So big shouts to that dude and all the stuff he's been doing. And then lastly, the only other thing I wanted to shout out was Doug Stanhope decided to go on a 30-day news blackout where he's not looking at any news. He doesn't have his phone. Everything is being brought to him by either like his best friend Chaley or by other people around him. But he's like on a complete news blackout right now. So it's a lot like he did a series called 30 Days in the Hole, where he essentially was just in a trailer for 30 days trying basically not drinking and not smoking. Because he just wanted to try and like get off booze and cigarettes. So he would allow himself to have 2 cocktails a night, because technically that's not drinking for Doug Stanhope.
Jesus.
But it was just 2 cocktails, so he got like real fancy with his cocktails, and then he had like 1 emergency cigarette that he was able to make it most of the way without. But it's kind of like that, but instead of dropping booze, and he's dropping all news outlets, which is like Twitter, everything, like no contact. And it's been interesting, but a lot of fun. So recommend checking that out as well. And then lastly, Chris, we're going to record something right after this, right?
Oh, we are? That's actually news to me.
Oh, really? See, you need to pay attention to our Twitter more. If you have time after this, which, do you?
Not really.
Okay, well, then maybe we'll record it some other day this week.
I can always do tomorrow.
Okay, well then tomorrow. Well, I mean, it's not coming out for you guys till Wednesday either way.
Yeah, we can just do it tomorrow. That's cool with you.
Yeah, we'll do that. But tomorrow, Chris can think about this. We are either going to record a commentary track for WEC 1 or WEC 2.
Let me write this down.
And Chris, do you know much about WEC or World Extreme Cage Fighting?
So, past champions that I can name off the top of my head. I guess that shows you how much I maybe know. Let's see. Brian Stan was a champion, I think, at light heavyweight.
Wow, that was a name I wouldn't have expected to come out of the WEC top.
I know Mike Brown was a featherweight champion. I know Uriah Faber was a longtime featherweight champion. Jose Aldo was a champion. Dominic Cruz as a champion at bantamweight at one time before it turned to the UFC title. Yep. Fuck, I should know more. Anthony Pettis?
Yep.
God damn it. I don't really know any of the heavyweights.
There wasn't any.
There wasn't, right?
Well, there were like in the very early days, but WC was notoriously smaller weights.
And if I also recall, Carlos Condit was a champion. God damn it. I know there's some more that I should know.
That's about, like, after that, I'm going to have to start looking shit up. But yeah, you did pretty good with that. But but that's mostly the later days of WEC. You don't know much about the early days.
Didn't even Nick Diaz win the early days?
I think it was not Strike Force and Elite.
Because I know he won a Strike Force. I think it was one. Okay, man, I might be wrong. I swear he did one of the early WEC.
It was Elite XC.
That's probably what it is.
Yeah, if I remember right. But So the early days what's weird about the early days of WEC and why I want to cover it is. They were basically in a fucking field at Tachi Palace.
Yeah.
Which is, of course, where the UFC was planning on holding UFC 249. And so that's why I want to do this. And so what I want to ask you is, there is either WEC 1 or WEC 2. The difference is WEC 1 does not have commentary. It's just the fights.
Oh, that's interesting.
WC2 has commentary.
I might want to do one then. That sounds because it's almost not like we're gonna commentate the fight, but that'd be kind of cool if we could just.
Second part of WC1, all the fights are individual. It's not one long video.
Okay. Let me give it some thought, and I'll get back. I mean, obviously we'll be doing something
right now. So we'll be recording it tomorrow. You guys will hear it on Wednesday, most likely. And yeah, Chris, you can let me know what time tomorrow are you thinking? Do you know?
What's easier for you, like afternoon or even maybe like
earlier
late
the better. Like,
okay,
maybe
like 2:00 or some shit, 2:30,
something like that.
No, let's do 3. We'll do 3:00.
Hell yeah! Shit, cool. Who knows? Maybe we'll stream that.
Yeah, that could be fun.
We could probably make that happen. I don't know how much it's going to tax both of our. Actually, if that's the middle of the day on a Sunday and we're both also having to stream Fight Pass on top of streaming video,
that's probably
we might not have enough bandwidth at your house to make that happen.
Yeah, it's not a good call.
Yeah, but we will have that out, and it should be fun. It'll either be WC1 or WC2, just because you haven't really seen many events at the Tachi Palace, right?
Just a handful from what you've shown me.
Yeah, for like random WC cards, probably.
Yeah, I'm looking at. I won't say which card I'm looking at, but there's definitely a lot of names that I recognize. Surprisingly,
well, especially the later ones, but the early ones, there's actually a handful for sure. So, but yeah, don't spoil the fights for yourself for sure. But all right, everybody. Well, we will be back next week. Actually, I guess we'll be back Wednesday for that, but we'll be back next week for our regular ass episodes. In the meantime, I am doing those daily episodes semi-daily. It's basically days when I don't have editing to do or when I'm not just like dying inside. Depending on how the week is going. So I'm doing my best to do them semi-daily. There'll definitely be one on Tuesday. There'll definitely be one on Thursday. Those will definitely happen. Outside of those 2 days, I'll try to make it happen if I can. I think that's about all I had. Chris, you have anything else you want to get out of here?
No, that's it for me.
Cool, man. Well, we will go ahead and wrap this here. But until next time, you guys can find us on Twitter, TSOV Pod. You can find us on YouTube at The Sound of Violence. If you give us a like or a thumbs up or a fucking subscription, that helps. Also, if you give us a rating on wherever you listen to us, whether it's Apple Podcasts or Google Play or whatever the fuck they call their podcast bullshit nowadays, or anywhere you listen, we're just about everywhere except for Spotify, because I can't fucking figure out Spotify again. We were on Spotify for a little bit, and then Spotify changed their shit, and now it's like a whole fucking thing. If I was maybe I'll get Karen involved, and we'll get talk to some managers, get this shit taken care of. But I guess that's about it. So, Chris, you got anything to say before we get out of here?
Everyone, stay home if you can. That's all I really could say. If you can get some sunshine, yeah, do it. But just do it responsibly. Wear a fucking mask. Just what you're already hearing.
Yep. And aside from that, go support your local restaurants and breweries.
Yep.
100%. Because they need
Please.
it. And also, you want them to be there when we can go out again. So.
People don't realize it. If you don't support them now, they're not going to be open when everything is returning back to normal.
And if you're hearing that from people in San Diego about San Diego breweries, that applies to every single brewery in every single state. Because holy fuck, if our breweries are having trouble, everybody's breweries are having trouble. So, till next time, everybody, go do something decadent. We out. Late.
Liked by The Sound of Violence.